Stranded in the desert. A combi adventure. The old Volkswagen Combi shook and made strange noises before it stopped in the middle of the empty road. The midday sun was high in the sky, shining brightly over the wide Sonoran desert. Heat rose from the cracked road in shimmering waves, making everything look like it was moving. Sophia gripped the steering wheel, staring at the empty stretch of desert in front of her. She turned the key in the ignition one last time. Nothing, not even a spark of life. Bruna whined from the passenger seat, her large brown eyes darting between Sophia and the dusty landscape. "I know, girl," Sophia muttered, wiping the sweat from her brow. She swung the door open, stepping out into the oppressive heat. The air hit her like an oven. Bruna jumped out after her, sniffing around before retreating to the shade beneath the combi. Sophia pulled the map from her glove compartment and unfolded it on the combi's hood. Her fingers traced the faint lines leading to a small dot labeled San Miguel, the nearest town, at least 20 miles away. She looked back at the combi, its aging exterior looking as worn out as she felt. The water jug in the back rattled emptily as she checked their supplies. Barely enough for the two of them to make it through the night. Sophia leaned against the combi, closing her eyes for a moment as she tried to come up with a plan. A dream born from solitude. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the desert, Sophia's mind drifted. This wasn't how she had imagined her great adventure. When she was a child, books and music were her escape from the world. Sophia would lose herself in stories of great landscapes and faraway cities, her fingers strumming her guitar or plucking at the strings of a violin. She had never been one for crowds or noise. Solitude was her sanctuary. Her best friends, Monique and Tina, had made school tolerable, but now they were gone, off to colleges in distant states. Sophia's parents had pushed her to follow the same path, urging her to think of her future. But how could she? All her life, Sophia had dreamed of traveling, of seeing the beauty God and man had created. She couldn't bury that dream under textbooks and lecture halls. After months of pleading and promises, her parents finally relented. Sophia had spent her savings on the combi, a beaten-up 1994 model that barely ran. For 9 months, she threw herself into learning everything she could about fixing it, turning it into a cozy mobile home. Now, standing in the middle of nowhere, Sophia couldn't help but wonder if she'd made a terrible mistake. A plan takes shape. Sophia squatted down to scratch Bruna behind the ears. The dog tilted her head and barked softly as if urging her to keep going. "Well, we can't just sit here," Sophia said, grabbing her backpack. She stuffed it with the last water bottle, a flashlight, and a small bag of trail mix. "Let's see what's over that hill." The two of them set off, the combi shrinking behind them as they climbed the dusty incline. Sophia's boots kicked up small clouds of sand with every step. Her heart pounded in the silence, broken only by Bruna's panting and the faint whistle of the wind. When they reached the crest of the first hill, all Sophia could see was another stretch of endless sand and another hill in the distance. She looked back at the combi, now just a small white speck against the horizon. "Keep moving," she whispered to herself. Bruna bounded ahead, barking excitedly as they crested the second hill. Sophia squinted against the setting sun, her eyes scanning the horizon. There, in the distance, was the outline of a building. It was small and battered, with a faded sign that might once have read gas, but was now barely legible. "An abandoned gas station?" she said aloud, her voice a mix of relief and apprehension. Better than nothing. The gas station. As they approached the crumbling structure, Sophia noticed how eerily quiet it was. The windows were shattered, and the pumps were rusted relics of a time long past. Inside, Sophia found more than she had expected. There was water, stale but drinkable. A generator hummed faintly in the back, powering a single overhead light. And on the counter, covered in dust, was an old music player with a stack of records beside it. Sophia couldn't resist. She flipped through the records until she found one labeled Western Classics. She dropped the needle, and the scratchy sound of a guitar twanged through the empty station. She began to dance, spinning around the room with Bruna barking joyfully at her heels. For a moment, the fear and exhaustion melted away. That was when she heard it. The low growl of an engine. Sophia froze, the music player still humming. Bruna's barks turned ferocious, and she darted toward the door. Sophia rushed to turn off the music and hid behind the counter, whispering for Bruna to stay quiet. Through the cracked window, she saw a motorcycle pulling up. A man dismounted, tall and broad-shouldered, his silhouette framed by the setting sun. He had a pistol strapped to his hip. "Stay calm," Sophia whispered to herself, clutching Bruna's collar as the man stepped inside. The man scanned the room, his hand hovering near his gun. Bruna growled low, her body tense. "Who's here?" he called out, his voice rough but young. Sophia stepped out slowly, holding her hands up. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "Don't shoot. We're just passing through." The man's eyes narrowed as he took in her disheveled appearance, the dusty backpack, and the panting dog at her side. "You're trespassing," he said, his hand still near his gun. "This is private property." Sophia swallowed hard, searching for the right words. "Please," she said again. "We didn't have a choice. Our van broke down and we're out of water. We needed a place to rest." The man tilted his head, studying her for a moment before his hand dropped away from the pistol. "All right," he said, "but you're lucky I found you first." "Lucky?" Sophia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man's expression darkened as he stepped closer. "This desert doesn't forgive mistakes," he said, "and neither do some of the people who pass through it." The artist in the desert. Sophia stared at the man who had just walked into the gas station, her heart racing. Bruna stayed close to her side, growling softly. The man raised his hands in mock surrender. "Relax, I'm not here to hurt you," he said. His voice, though rough at first, softened. "Name's Mark. This place used to be my dad's old gas station." Sophia didn't lower her guard. "Used to be?" Mark nodded, brushing a strand of dark hair away from his eyes. "Yeah, my dad's sick now, so I help him run the farm near town. But when I get the chance, I come here. I like the quiet. Helps me think and paint." "Paint?" Sophia asked, her curiosity breaking through her wariness. Mark gestured to the corner of the room where an easel stood, along with a cluttered box of oil paints and brushes. "This place inspires me. Don't know why, but it does." Sophia glanced at the canvas, noticing soft strokes of amber and blue blending into what looked like the desert at sunset. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Mark shrugged, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Thanks." A ride to the combi. Mark leaned against the counter, folding his arms. You said your combi broke down? I can take a look. Got some tools with me. Sophia hesitated, her hand instinctively tightening on the combi's key in her pocket. I'll come with you, she said firmly. Mark raised an eyebrow. It's a motorcycle, not a bus. How are you and your dog planning to fit? We'll manage, Sophia said, not giving him a chance to argue. Mark sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. All right, suit yourself. Outside, Sophia climbed onto the back of Mark's motorcycle, holding Bruna on her lap. The dog squirmed, clearly uncomfortable, but settled when Sophia wrapped her arms around her. This is ridiculous, Mark muttered as he kicked the bike into gear. Just drive, Sophia snapped, clinging tightly as the motorcycle roared to life and sped toward the horizon. The combi's diagnosis. They reached the combi as the sun dipped lower in the sky. Mark crouched beside the vehicle, inspecting it with a flashlight, while Sophia and Bruna watched closely. Well, here's the problem, he said after a while, holding up a small charred piece. You need a new relay. Without it, you're not going anywhere. Can you fix it? Sophia asked. Not here. I'll have to go to town and grab a replacement. Sophia frowned, glancing at the sinking sun. How far is town? About an hour each way. Mark stood, brushing the dust off his jeans. I'll go now. You and Bruna can stay at the gas station. There's a room in the back with a bed and some snacks in the fridge. It's where I crash when I need to get away. Sophia hesitated, but finally nodded. All right, but don't take too long. Mark chuckled, hopping back onto his motorcycle. Don't worry, I'll be back before you know it. The long wait. The room Mark had mentioned was surprisingly comfortable. Sophia found a clean bed with soft sheets, a small table, and a cozy sofa. The refrigerator was stocked with drinks and snacks, just as he'd said. As night fell, she lay on the bed, Bruna curled up at her feet. But sleep didn't come easily. The wind howled outside, and every creak of the old building made her heart race. By morning, Mark still hadn't returned. Where is he? Sophia muttered, pacing the room. Bruna watched her anxiously, her tail thumping against the floor. Hours passed, and the sun climbed high into the sky. Sophia stood at the door, shielding her eyes from the glare as she scanned the horizon. Then, just past noon, she heard it, the unmistakable growl of a motorcycle engine. She ran outside, her heart pounding, and saw Mark approaching. He waved, a smile lighting up his face. Sophia felt a strange flutter in her chest. What a funny feeling, she thought. Why is my heart feeling this way? Well, of course it's because he's here to fix the combi. That's all. Fixing the combi. Mark hopped off the motorcycle, holding up the replacement part. Told you I'd come back. Sophia crossed her arms, pretending to be annoyed. What took you so long? Had to wait for the shop to open, he explained. Relax, let's get this fixed. They worked together under the afternoon sun. Mark showed Sophia how to install the new part, his hands deftly moving over the engine. Their eyes met more than once, brief moments that lingered a second too long. A shy smile would follow, but neither said a word about it. When the combi roared back to life, Sophia couldn't help but grin. You did it! Mark leaned back, wiping his hands on a rag. We did it. A question of destiny. As they packed up the tools, Mark glanced at Sophia. Do you believe in destiny? Sophia paused, caught off guard by the question. Why? Mark shrugged. a teasing smile on his lips. No reason. She tilted her head, studying him. What are you trying to say? Nothing, he said, laughing softly as he turned back toward his motorcycle. But as he smiled, Sophia felt that strange flutter again. The combi was fixed, but as Sophia watched Mark ride off into the sunset, she couldn't shake the feeling that their story wasn't over. Was it just a coincidence that he had found her in the desert? Or was there something more waiting for them both? That's where Sophia's journey leaves us for now. Have you ever felt that flutter in your heart? The mix of fear and hope as you wait for what comes next? What would you do if you were in Sophia's shoes, alone in an unfamiliar place, unsure if help will arrive? If her story struck a chord with you, give this video a like and share it with someone who might enjoy improving their English while diving into an exciting tale. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories that improve your English and spark your imagination.